You can just change nothing else in your business, but you change the price and you can make a ton more money. You can also make less if you do it wrong. It's just not the right use of your time when you're making less than 25K a month. Done for you is easy to sell, hard to deliver because you have to do the work, and do it yourself, but I'm just going to give you an online course or something, is harder to sell, but easy to deliver.
So how to choose the right niche and problem to solve?
I'll give you an example. So one of our creators, Menina, she was a dance instructor and she had her own dance studio. And during COVID, it was shut down. So she lost her income overnight. She then decided, okay, I'm going to launch something online. And she chose a niche that she thought was good, which was, I'm going to help new mums get in shape, because she was a mum and dance had helped her stay in shape through her career. So she thought that was a good niche. And it worked okay. She made a couple of $1,000s. It actually kind of just about like replaced the income she was earning from her studio. But she, of course, wanted more. She saw online you have the ability to infinitely scale. And so she started exploring other ideas. And what she found, she looked at, I always encourage people to look for hotspots, meaning something where you're getting like some kind of, follow the breadcrumbs, some kind of indications that there's maybe something there. And she was getting more and more people asking her for advice on how to actually grow in their dance career, because Menina was a successful dancer. She'd worked with Britney Spears and a whole bunch of celebrities. And so you had these aspiring dance professionals who were saying, hey, Menina, can you help me? Like, you know, I don't have the network. I don't know how to get in. I don't know how much to charge, all these things. So she followed these breadcrumbs and she created an offer for that market. And that became the business of dance, which is now her app, where she's earning 6 figures a month with this app, which is many, many, many multiples more than what she was earning with her dance studio and her initial niche. And so what I encourage people to do when choosing a niche and a problem to solve is, number one, follow the breadcrumbs, look for those hotspots. Number two, if there's a market where you can actually improve someone's career, help them make money or save money, you're always going to be able to charge more for that, because the best thing in the world you can sell is money. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice. Another example to add here would be Cormier. We interviewed him on the $1 Million Creators podcast, and he thought, hey, you know what? So many people are doing cold outreach. So that means they manually send very repetitively email after email after email. Maybe they have some automations there, but still it's quite a big problem to ultimately get actually customers in. You have certain conversion rates, and then you can build a 6, 7, 8-figure business on the back of that, right? So then AI came, and he was like, can actually AI help to automate more, to reach out smarter and more individualized and personalized, right? And then he ultimately set up a lot of systems. Everything runs completely on autopilot. And with that, he's able now to send more than 30,000 emails a day, which feel quite personal. And with that, of course, he generated a really nice business for himself. And he also is teaching that to others. So if someone wants to have more leads, more people, then you can use his systems and work with him in order to get more customers, which is interesting in this new world. And where I would say it's a very clear niche, very clear problem. And the pitch is like obvious that this should work. So let's test it out. And if it works, then it will improve, let's say, the cost per lead, right? And done. Good. Let's move on. How to structure a great offer.
Okay, here I'm going to steal the equation from Alex Hormozi. So he wrote this book, $100 Million Offers. And as with all great books, it can be summarized by essentially one statement, which is to create an offer that has a high perceived value, meaning people think it's worth a lot and therefore they are willing to spend a lot on that offer. There's essentially a few items that you need to, a few checkboxes that you need to hit. The first is, what are you selling? You're selling the dream outcome. You need to maximize the dream outcome. And most people understand this intuitively, that if you are selling a weight loss program, you're going to be talking about how amazing it's going to look and feel when you lose weight. Okay. If you're selling a vacation, you're going to be talking about how much fun you're going to be having on the beach in Barbados, right? That's the dream outcome. That one most people get right. But the other three are things that most people miss or get wrong. So the second one is you want to increase the perceived likelihood of achievement. So an example that Hormozi uses here, which I love, is the difference in the value between a gym membership and liposuction. A gym membership is worth what? $50 a month, maybe 100, depending on how fancy it is. Liposuction, people are spending $20,000, $30,000 on. Okay. And one of the main reasons is the perceived likelihood of success. If I go in for liposuction, the next day I'm like 20 pounds lighter, right? Like guaranteed. They literally remove the fat from my body. It's gonna happen. If I get a gym membership, am I really going to succeed? Well, I've tried the gym before. I lost momentum, blah, 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 blah. I fluctuate. Actually, am I really confident when I join the gym that I'm going to achieve my weight loss goals? Maybe, maybe not. So the second thing is increase the perceived likelihood of achievement. And then the two that are left, you actually want to minimize. So the first one is time delay. That is how long between when I give you my money and me achieving the result. Okay. So a good example here is if I sold you a program on how to make money and I told you that the way you're going to do that is you are going to put $10 in the bank every month, right? And you're going to get compound interest. So by the time you retire, you've got $1,000, or I don't know what it would be, $20,000, right? There's such a long time delay between when you buy this program and when you achieve the result. That's clearly not worth a lot. But if I can tell you how to make money today, make $10,000 today by sending, for example, Matthias, a bunch of cold emails or whatever and selling a certain offer, whatever it might be, then of course the perceived value of that offer goes up. Okay. The final one is effort and sacrifice. How hard is it for me to do this thing? We can easily go back to the gym example here, right? How much effort and sacrifice is it going to take me to go to the gym 5 days a week? It's going to be painful. I'm going to sweat. I'm going to be panting. It's going to be awful. I'm going to have to give up food that I love, which I really don't want to do. So that's more effort and sacrifice. And by the way, I have to do this for months, if not years, to achieve my weight loss goals. Liposuction, effort and sacrifice, they literally put me to sleep. I'm unconscious while they're doing this thing. I wake up and it's gone. Okay. Maybe a week in bed, chilling, relaxing while I recover. So again, the harder it is, the lower the perceived value. So whenever you're making an offer, think about, okay, I want to get the maximum value, meaning I want people to perceive that this is worth a lot and are willing to pay me a lot for it. And then you can maximize and minimize these 4 criteria to create a higher perceived value and a much higher chance that this person that you present this offer to is going to purchase the offer.
I think one more thing to add here is, if you're a coach and you start out, right, and you're like, okay, what offer should I create? You can say, of course, like basically 5 things. One is you can create on-demand content, which is the course. You can create a community. You can create an accountability coaching where you hold people accountable to doing X, Y, Z. You can do one-on-one coaching, which is like sharing your knowledge and making sure that they just like get whatever you know. And you can, of course, also do group coaching. So interestingly here is that, of course, if you sell your own time, yes, that's like not really scalable, but it also has a higher perceived value because if you buy someone's time, like an hourly rate, like just it's going to be in the hundreds, right? And it's not like some 7-lesson online course for like $9 or $10 or a Headspace subscription. So you of course have a higher perceived value there in the audience, and for that reason you can charge more. And I would say the second thing is interesting, when you do one-on-one coaching, you have a different time to actually get started, time to market arguably, because for on-demand content, you first have to create a curriculum, the outline, the content, the videos, all of these things. You maybe also not know if it's actually working. You have to price it, create sales pages, lots of things, and then you launch it and hopefully it works. With one-on-one, you can get started today, like immediately. Reach out to someone, jump on a call, help him, help her, and so on and so forth. And from there, you actually can learn, understand what's the problem of this person. And then if you get the same question over and over again, you can then start to create on-demand content and courses. And the course will almost like will be built by itself, and it will naturally grow. And the more and more questions you get repetitively, you can then point to the course with a deep link and so on and so forth. So you start with the high perceived value. With a few customers, you can already make decent money. And then you can go one level deeper and automate that whole thing. And for people that don't want to put the money in from the first second, they can go on the lower priced offers, build trust, and then go into the higher priced coaching. Let's move on. How to do actually pricing?
Most people freak out about choosing their price. And actually, Matthias, you once told me a quote which I remember all the time: price is the gift that keeps on giving, right? You can just change nothing else in your business, but you change the price and you can make a ton more money. You can also make less if you do it wrong. And so pricing is one of the most important things, and it's something that people don't know how much to charge and they freak out about it, and often people undercharge. So let me share my screen. I'm going to show what I show in. So we have a program called Expert Growth. It walks people through a bunch of stuff, but one of them is choosing your price. So I'm going to show you a little bit from this. I'm going to just give you the number, okay? Not because it's the perfect number, but it's definitely going to be a lot closer than where you are today. And just sometimes having certainty is enough, right? So I'm going to give you certainty right now. I'm going to give you two kind of axes. One here is like, does the product make you money? When you sell it, is the person that you sell it to going to make more money off the back of this product, yes or no? Or save money? And then on the other side, maybe they don't make or save money. And then also, who are you selling to, right? There's this great quote, solve rich people problems because they pay rich people prices. So are you selling to a low, medium, or high income niche? If you sell conversion rate optimization to a company that makes 100K a year and you can optimize it to make them 10% more, then you're making them $10,000 more. Okay, that's the leverage you have. If you sell that same product to a company making 100 million, then you're making them 10 million. So same product sold to a different person is worth a very different amount, right? So these are the two kind of axes here. And let's go through it. So my suggestion is this: if you are selling to a low income niche, meaning people who are maybe just starting out in whatever it might be, then if the product makes the money, I would recommend selling it for 2K or 1997. If it does not make them money, like you're teaching about how to lose weight or something like that, 997. If you're selling to a medium income niche, so this is someone who's maybe on the journey of whatever niche you're in, but they're not super advanced, 5 to 10K. If you're really confused, just take right in the middle, 7.5, if it helps make them money, 2K if it doesn't help make them money. And finally, in a high income niche, with a product that helps you make money, 15K minimum. You can, of course, go up, right? We know people with offers in the millions, but the minimum you should be charging someone who has money and that you're going to help make money is $15,000. Any less than that, and you are leaving so much money on the table. And then if you're selling a product that doesn't make money to a high income niche, for example, in fact, I gave this example when we spoke before. I know a yoga instructor who makes tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars regularly from teaching yoga one-on-one to a high net worth individual who just wants the flexibility that this yoga instructor will fly out to their Italian mansion to teach them yoga. And so even if you're not helping people make money, but if you're selling to a rich person, you should be charging rich people prices. By the way, they want to pay rich people prices. People who have money don't value things that aren't expensive. So they will actually value it more if you charge more for it. The last example I'll give here, because it's a personal one to us, Matt, on your bachelor party, we went to this amazing beach club in Sweden, right? And you could buy one bottle of champagne that was 750 milliliters for like whatever it was, let's say 100 euros, okay? Then you could get one that's 1.5, so it's exactly double the size, but the price was 300 euros, right? So you're doubling the size, but you're paying 3 times as much. Then you could buy one that was twice the size of that and you'd pay 10 times the price. So the more expensive or the bigger this thing got, actually the higher price per milliliter of champagne that you're paying. Why is that? Because the people who have a ton of money, they want the status that comes with buying this really expensive thing. They actually value it more because it costs more money. If it went the other way, if it became cheaper to buy bigger bottles, they actually would be buying the smaller bottles, right? So rich people want to spend rich people prices. And so you really should be charging them that because that's what they value.
Yeah, agree. To add to that, of course, in the champagne example, they buy themselves status, right?
Yeah.
Because with the biggest bottle in the club, you're apparently the biggest dude, the alpha dog in the club, right? And I would say not everyone identifies with that, but to also give you an example from one of the interviews I had, where a person gave negotiation training to others, and his offer was in particular tailored for top management, even CEOs of mid-cap, large-cap companies. And there, if you actually help them to negotiate better, a deal, a partnership, procurement, anything, you all of a sudden save the company, you make the company hundreds of millions of dollars And if that thing then costs 500K, that training, that's a steal. And in this particular case, the person had a course, then group coaching, then one-on-one coaching, and then even done with you where he sits right next to you at the table to do negotiation with you or even for you. And then, of course, you have like high certainty, the money's made in the meeting or saved, right? And you're like very, very happy to pay 500K for that.
I love that example. And it reminds me of something else when you're structuring offers. This idea that done for you is easy to sell, hard to deliver because you have to do the work. Done with you is medium hard to sell, medium hard to deliver. And do it yourself, but I'm just going to give you an online course or something, is harder to sell, but easy to deliver. And so when people are getting started on their journey, I would suggest you go for something that's easy to sell, even if it's a bit harder to deliver, because you get the money and then you can reinvest and you can also learn. And then you gradually, so you might start with done for you, then you might move to done with you, then you might move to DIY. Passion actually started done for you. We did everything for our initial customers. We then moved to done with you into a coaching. Then we went to DIY with our software platform. So that's another way that you could think about structuring your offer. If you're a beginner, start with that thing that's maybe harder to deliver, but you can charge more and it's easier to sell. Why, and by the way, why is it easier to sell? Because the perceived likelihood of achievement goes up, the effort and sacrifice goes down, right? So it's all of that value equation. Done for you stuff is worth more because people think, okay, I'm definitely going to achieve the result. It's not going to take me a lot of time. It's not going to take me a lot of effort and sacrifice. The outcome is the same. The promised outcome is the same, but it's those other three dimensions that make a done for you product worth a lot more and a lot easier to sell as well.
One more interesting story here. We recently had a pitch with a marketing agency, and they essentially even put a guarantee on top where they said, hey, this thing costs 90K, but there's a guarantee that you will make 150K. And if you don't make 150K, we'll refund that 90K. So the easiest way to make money is to sell money. And I mean, why would I invest 90K if we get 150K back? So
put a guarantee on top of a make money offer, and it's even easier. 100% agree. Becomes a no-brainer.
Let's move on. Why do people charge too little?
I hear all the time, I want to make it accessible. I really want to make this accessible for everyone. And actually what ends up happening is the people who say that, they charge way too little. They can't get any traction because they don't have any money. They're not making enough money to actually invest in like marketing and product and making this thing actually good. And so even though it's in theory accessible, no one buys it. And so by making it accessible, you've actually excluded the entire market, right? So anyone who's thinking, right, if you're thinking right now, I really want to make this thing accessible, the best way to do that is to get, especially in the beginning, start high price, charge a lot, make money, invest in making this thing more scalable, better, invest in marketing, invest in team, then you can bring the price down and make it more accessible. If you start the other way around, often you won't make it accessible because no one's going to buy it. So one thing is that idea of I want to make it accessible. Another one that I think comes up a lot is that people look at competitors. And so if you're creating an online product, you might look at, well, there's a fitness app. If it's a fitness product, you might say, well, there's a fitness app for $5 a month and there's this for $10 a month. And so they might look like that, which usually what they're doing is they're comparing themselves to huge corporations with massive budgets who can afford to actually, often they'll spend, let's say, $100 to acquire a single customer who pays them $10 a month. And they won't even make any money until month 11 once that customer's been there for 10 months. So these companies, you cannot compete with them. It doesn't make any sense to try. And then that brings me on to the last thing of like why people charge too little is they tend to look at like, what did I put into this versus what is the value of the result worth to the person. And so if I look at like, okay, if I sell, let's say I sell an online course, what does it cost me to deliver that online course once I've already made it? Basically zero, right? So if I just look at my cost of fulfillment, I would value this online course very low. But if I look at the value of the outcome, as we talked about earlier, help a CEO to negotiate a big deal might be worth $100 million to them. So if I look at that outcome, what's the outcome worth? Well, you could easily argue it's worth $10 million, right? It's only 10% of the value I've created. So I could easily charge $10 million for that, even if my cost to fulfill was very low. Okay. So what people do that they shouldn't do is they try and make it accessible. They look at competitors, they look at how much time they put in and what it costs to deliver. What they should do is look at what is the value of achieving the result you're helping people achieve actually worth. And it doesn't just like, this is easy when you're helping people make money, you can quantify it. But this also is just as valid for when you're not helping people make money. What is the value of currently feeling, let's say you're in weight loss, right? Currently, every time you look in the mirror, you just hate what you see. You're not confident. You go to parties and you don't speak to anyone because you just are uncomfortable in your own skin. You don't go for that promotion. You don't put yourself out there at work. You're lonely because you're not in a good relationship, etc., etc., etc. Imagine solving that, feeling confident, looking in the mirror, being like, yes, this is me, going to the parties, having an amazing time, meeting amazing people, going for that promotion. All of a sudden, like, what's this outcome worth? It's worth, I would argue, it's basically priceless. And so it's not just when you're making people money that you can actually value the outcome. It's in both cases.
You just said start with the high ticket, with the high price point, make it with that actually accessible, and then you can bring the price down. I would say when you're on that journey, bringing the price down does not necessarily mean that you lower the price of your product, but you can create another offer which is more automated at a lower price point and build trust there to your higher price points. What you actually would likely do is to increase the price further by having so much demand that you actually want to be more exclusive. By, for example, then doubling your price, you can achieve that because not everyone will then buy into that higher price offer. You do that over and over again, and ultimately you end up at Tony Robbins level where you can work one-on-one with him. It's going to be 1 million to work with him one-on-one. But you can, of course, go to UPW, Date with Destiny, or watch some free content on YouTube. I think what's also interesting, I had someone on the show recently, his name is Jonathan, and he comes from a family where the mindset in the family, the culture of the family was always like, yeah, we don't have money, it's hard, we like struggle, and we never have money, and like it's just an issue, and like it's this inherent thing where he grew up, and that's how he thinks. Like even in his language, he said, yeah, I'm not going to charge crazy prices, right? Like someone that charges 50K, 500K, 100K, like it's not even a conversation, like wouldn't even think about this. But he charges 200, 300 and thinks like, yeah, it's on the edge to be crazy. But it's hard for him to change because he comes from that background. But the good thing is he's actually aware of it. And I think this awareness is already 50%. And he knows that ultimately entrepreneurship is the ultimate road to become a better version of yourself. It's the ultimate journey of self and personal development. So with that, he actually has the best chance to change that mindset also for the next generations to come. And he ultimately will double, triple prices and then build a business which becomes even more successful than today. So yeah, just as personal development angle is also interesting because you might not be there, but it's also the best path to actually change that.
Yeah. I think that's why people say, and it took me years to understand this, but I've heard people say so many times, the best way to charge high ticket, to charge high ticket, you first have to buy high ticket. To charge high ticket, you first have to buy high ticket. And I always thought it was like a marketing tactic. It's like, yeah, if you want to sell high ticket, you have to buy my high ticket thing first. But actually what I've come to understand is when I've bought a high ticket product, right, whether that's a high ticket Tony Robbins event or this agency you just mentioned or a coaching program or whatever, the mindset is not, first of all, it's not that you're pissed off that someone's charging you a high ticket price. You're actually excited because there's an outcome that you want to achieve and you are investing your money. You're voting with your wallet. You're investing your money to make this outcome a reality and you're excited about that. The second thing is because you invest in it, you value the crap out of that thing, right? When you pay attention. And the more you pay attention. You prioritize it, right? We all have 24 hours in the day. But it's a matter of what do we actually prioritize? And the thing where you put your dollars is the thing you prioritize. And so when you purchase something that's high ticket for the first time, you realize wow, this is actually a huge value that this, just literally by buying it, I'm prioritizing the thing that's important to me, and I'm investing with my dollars to get closer to the goal. And now I've got someone who's been there before who's going to help me get there. When you realize that mindset, then this idea that money is evil and charging high ticket is evil goes out the window. So when you're then selling and you say, yeah, the price is 20 grand or 100 grand or 50 grand or 5 grand, whatever, you're not thinking, oh, I'm being evil by charging them. You're remembering the mindset that, like, oh, this is actually serving them. This is really going to, if they decide this is the right thing for them, and if I can really help them, right? And of course, those two things have to be true, then you're really serving them by charging high ticket. Once you have that mindset shift, because I also come from a household of, like, my mum was a teacher, my dad was an engineer. The idea of charging people money for things that helps them was almost like, well, it must be a scam if this person's getting rich off helping people. It must be a scam. It's like, would you rather people get rich off not helping people, right? And so I came from that household as well, like that mindset as well, and it was such a big shift and such a difficult shift to realize you can actually be serving people by doing that.
I agree. I think one big example that we all can relate to is buying a house. If you buy a house, it's not supposed to feel cheap, like quickly buying a chewing gum. It's a fucking house, right? Like, you likely overstretch. You feel like, holy shit, can we really afford this? Is it going to be too much? And then you look into your wife's eyes, onto your husband's eyes, and the kids, and like all the stories and everything, and then you do it, and you think you might end up under the bridge, go bankrupt, and you all go to shit, and like you all die. But that's like just how it feels to buy a house, right? And if you, let's say, have 50 million in the bank, you will likely still buy a bigger house, mansion, I don't know what, where it's still like it's painful, but it's just what it is. Interestingly, though, it's even more so an unfair advantage to actually make these commitments. I tell you why, because if you, let's say, have 10 million on the bank and you buy this program and it's 10K, you don't fucking care. Like, it's not important. Like, you're just like, okay, I bought it, whatever. If not, I just do something else, right? Like, you're zero committed, zero invested. If you have 2K and you buy this thing for 10K, then you're going to be super invested, and this thing has to work. Like, you will make it work, because otherwise you will die. At least in your head, right? Like, that's the spiral that goes on. So it's an unfair advantage to actually not have the money, and that is painful, because it really makes you more committed than someone that has the money. And for that reason, it's actually beautiful. And it's, again, something that puts you into pain, and pain paired with a big vision is the ultimate formula to grow faster than anyone else. So embrace it and celebrate it. Be grateful for the pain that you get by paying high ticket. Next one. What are great offer stacks?
Yeah, so I think let's define offer stack. I think it's the idea that you can have multiple different price points ranging from very low or free or very cheap to very high, right? And I think the question is, what offers should you have? When should you create them? Should they be one time? Should they be recurring? My perspective on this is, in the beginning, if you are in the 0 to 25K a month range, just have one offer, because I've spoken to so many people who are like, I've got 10 different offers, different packages, different things, different They spent all this time creating this like beautiful tons of different offers, and then you find out they've actually got fewer customers than they have offers, right? It's crazy. So it's just not the right use of your time when you're making less than 25K a month to focus on multiple offers, arguably even beyond that, but minimum 25K a month. So that's the first thing. The first offer I would create, like I said earlier, if you're just starting out, is something higher priced. I showed you the exact numbers, minimum $1,000, ideally more, and up to 15, 20, 50K beyond, so that you can charge enough that you make decent money, that you get confidence in your business, that you can reinvest the money in your business, that you get the customers that you can actually afford to work with closely enough to get the learnings from them, so you can then automate that in the future and go lower priced. So that's where I would start. And then from there, you can really build up and down. It depends a little bit on which niche you're in. If you have the opportunity to go up market because you can sell into a rich people niche, that can work really well. I'll give you a great example. The agency that you just mentioned, They scaled from 50K a month to $1 million a month within 1 year. And they did this with a simple funnel. And the headline on the funnel is, we help e-commerce brands in Germany scale from 7 figures to 8 figures a month, right? Sorry, from 7 figures to 8 figures per year. That's essentially the translation of the headline. So it's this tiny market of e-commerce founders in Germany making at least 7 figures a year, and they help them scale to 8 figures. And that offer scaled this business from 50K a month to $1 million a month within 1 year, which is pretty amazing. So it's a tiny niche, but it's a rich people problem, and they're selling products for 50K, 100K. They've just closed their first 7-figure deal. So if you have the opportunity to go up market, you have an unfair advantage, because the person who can afford to pay the most to acquire a customer will always win. So the more you charge per customer, the more you can afford to pay to acquire that customer, either through running ads or through paying a sales team or through creating an amazing brand, whatever, different ways of paying for it, but ultimately you're still paying to acquire a customer. The more you charge, the more you can afford to pay to acquire that customer, and therefore you're more likely to win. So I would usually, if you can, I would try and go up market from there. And then the cool thing is, once you have really good margins in your business and you have good structured processes and systems, then that should be generating enough money to then try and cast a wider net and go down market and charge a lower price. Starting with, free content on the front end, then maybe a low ticket recurring subscription or a low ticket one-time product, which is usually called a tripwire. Might be like $7 or $20 or something like that. So that's usually the order. Start like mid-ticket, go up, and then go down.
I agree with that. I think one thing is also a myth about entrepreneurs is to be super risk-taking and like go all in and all of that things. What I often see is that actually you want to take risk out. Like the most successful people take risk out of the whole equation. So for example, you could create 10 courses, on-demand content, invest 2 years of time, and then put a price tag against it and put them on the market and wait for for a sale to happen. I would say this is quite a big risk, because you spend a lot of time on a complete unclear outcome, and then all of a sudden, nothing worked. So even more so, I just had recently someone on the $1 Million Creator Show. She's an e-com. She bought a product, 300K loan and obligation for this thing that she then wanted to sell, which didn't happen yet, hopefully. It's just crazy, right? Like it's such a risk. If you work in the beginning with people that have money and you do it one-on-one, you create a deal where it's a win-win, they benefit, you benefit, and you look for creating that return in a short amount of time, and then later you can build an on-demand product out of it. You actually have much less risk, and the return is much higher. You get testimonials, you get trust, and it's a much more obvious starting point than just building a course and then seeing what happens.
I got one more to add, which is when you talked about taking risk out of it and selling to a lot of people. When you're just starting out, it can be scary to make an offer. It can be scary to ask for money. And we can always tell ourselves stories like, I'm too busy, I don't have time. But quite often, if you really ask yourself the difficult questions, what's really going on is there's some kind of fear or limiting belief, or am I afraid of someone's judgment, etc. I think that the easiest way to get started and build that confidence and get that first revenue, when you are working with that first, is to reach out and start working with those first people, high ticket, right? You can do it. You could literally reach out to a few people via DM. If you're on LinkedIn and you're doing something, let's say you're helping graphic designers get promoted, random niche. If I was just getting started and I was kind of a little bit scared of putting myself out there and I wanted to test it out and I wanted to do it quickly with low risk, I would just DM 50 graphic designers and say, hey, I'm thinking about creating a product to help graphic designers get promoted. Can you tell me a little bit about what are your biggest challenges and biggest goals? And just open up a conversation with them. The great thing about doing that is you are actually asking for their advice while still positioning yourself as the expert. So what I mean by that is, number one, people love giving advice. If your best friend called you right now and said, hey, can I ask for your advice? you'd feel like amazing, right? Like people love giving advice and people love being asked for it. So that's cool because you're asking, hey, can you tell me like what are your biggest goals and challenges? I'm thinking about creating something. They're like, cool, I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to give you advice, right? But you're still positioned as the expert because you're going to create a product to help people like that. And so you're still above them in the kind of like social hierarchy or the professional hierarchy. And by doing that, you can just send out 50 DMs, ask that question, open up a bunch of conversations, make it, and then, try and jump on a call with a couple of them, make an offer and just say, hey, look, if I worked with you one-on-one to achieve this result, let's say we do like a weekly call and I would help you with, how to speak to your boss about this and how to position yourself in the company and how to write your CV and all these things. And you pay me upfront 2K, right? You're going to earn, you could even ask them like, how much more are you going to earn if you get this salary increase? Oh, 20K more. Cool. Well, look, how about I just get 10% of that, right? I get 2K. You pay me upfront because I got to invest a bunch of time here. And if you don't get the promotion within 3 months, I will work with you for free until you do. Right? There's a guarantee. Or if you don't get the promotion within 3 months, I'll give you your money back. Right? That's a stronger guarantee, but you've obviously got to be sure that you're going to be able to do it for them. So you give them a guarantee, you only take a small piece of the upside and you work with them closely. Then you can learn, you can build confidence, and then putting yourself out there is going to feel way easier because you can say, hey, I helped so-and-so get promoted in 3 months. Here's a case study of how I did it. You can put yourself out there and you can start building and growing.
Let's double click on one more thing with offer stacks. I see a lot of creators out there doing launches here, launches there, and actually being overly dependent on the launch. And we even have done that ourselves in 2016, 17, 18. We have done launches and some were amazing, like 6-figure, 7-figure launch. But then the day after, you actually don't make any money, right? And the moment when you have a team in place with paychecks, payroll, it's actually stressful because all of a sudden you're burning money, you're losing money, and it doesn't really make the business sustainable, predictable, and you always think, what if the next launch doesn't go well, and so on and so forth. On the other hand, there are launches that make sense. For example, I don't know, Black Friday is always a big one, right? But I think you have to have a big foundation and a sustainable foundation in place where you constantly have certainty on actually getting money in. There's 2 ways to do it. One is the obvious one, recurring offers. So you, instead of charging one-time fees, you go into recurring. And with that, 8 out of 10 people will stay month on month, quarter on quarter, year on year. And with that, you can actually plan and you know that you will make in half a year, a certain amount of money. And you all of a sudden get out of this insecurity and you have certainty on what is really coming. Another thing where actually the offer stack is helping, if you then at some point have multiple offers, then after someone has purchased an offer and completed the offer, he will has more trust in you. And then, of course, there will be the next problem that this person has. And then you can upsell the person into the next offer. And you know already if someone buys today, he will first buy A, then B, C, D, E, F based on these conversion rates. And then you will get this lifetime value over the next 3 years and so on. It also makes it more predictable. And with that, you can then actually commit more to the business, professionalize the business, level up the team, and so on and so forth. I just had someone on the show. She's making on a good launch 20K, 50K. She still works full time because she's a mother with 3 kids. And she's just like, what if something doesn't go right? And then no money's coming in. So rather stick to my full-time job. If she would make 20 to 50K guaranteed month on month, she wouldn't do that. So it has a huge impact on your business, on yourself, on your family. So how can you actually go from launches to predictable income with launches on top?
Yeah, exactly.
Once or twice a year. It's also important.
And the reason launches work is because you have urgency and you have scarcity, right? So human beings, we're always trying to conserve calories. We're like survival machines, right? And so when there's, so we don't want to make decisions because making a decision takes brain power, calories, etc. So we always want to kick the can down the road. It's human nature. And so when there's an offer where there's no urgency, no scarcity, you can get it anytime, most likely you don't do it. But when there's a launch and it's like, it's happening now, it's like the game is happening right now. You're going to watch the Super Bowl, yes or no? You're going to watch it. But if the Super Bowl happened yesterday, are you going to sit there and watch the entire Super Bowl the next day? No, because you don't have the urgency and scarcity. The recording will be there forever, right? So that's why launches work. Then to create this certainty that you just described, you need to think about, how do I create urgency and scarcity in an evergreen way? So a good example is, okay, I can only take on 10 clients a month because then I'm completely out, right? And so far this month, I've taken on 8. I've also got a wait list of people who want to join next month. So, if you do want to join, we're going to be starting in 2 months from now. Okay. That means that you can always sell this product. It's evergreen, but there's real, genuine, not fake, genuine scarcity where there's a limited number of seats and an urgency to secure one of those seats, but it's happening every month. It's not only happening on launch days.
I agree. Another company that does that really well is Apple with their iPhone, right? It's not really an attention game where they're not like suddenly launching the iPhone 16, all of a sudden it's in the store. No, there's like a keynote. There is like this event, September 16th or whatever. You have rhythms, when stuff is coming. People are waiting. People get all hyped. And you have news outlets talking about it and so on. The same for cars, right? New version comes, new product comes. It's coming from there, and actually it works. But the additional effort, of course, then needs also to it's less evergreen, less automated, but it's important as well. Maybe that's like another last one. Let's see if we can close on this one. Going evergreen, I think this is something which a lot of people are interested in. What does it actually mean going evergreen, and what are some really cool tactics to get there?
Going evergreen means, I'm looking down here at my little terrace here. I have flowers that die every year, and that they're flowering for like 2 months a year, and then they're basically dead for 10 months a year. And then I have another type, which is a rhododendron that's like green all the time, right? I love this one that's green all the time because it's nice even in December. So evergreen literally means it's always green. You're always making the green. You're always making money every month. So that's, and as you said, that's definitely where you want to get to, because you want the certainty that you can also make commitments. You can quit your job if that's where you're at, or you can hire people, or whatever it is. You want to know approximately where your revenue and your income is going to be. In terms of how to get there, implementing urgency and scarcity in a way that is always true is a really good way of doing it. And then I guess the last thing I would say is, the more that you can automate things as a set it and forget it, the better. Like, I always try and think, like, how can I make myself obsolete? How can I do this once in a way that I don't have to continually do this every single day, right? I don't actually like doing the same thing multiple times. So that really helps, because if as soon as I do something 2, 3, 4 times, I know you're the same, Matt, it's just super annoying. You don't want to do it. So I'd rather spend a bit longer thinking about how can I go through the decision tree. It starts with, can I eliminate this thing? Meaning, can I just not do it at all? What would happen if I didn't do this thing? If I can't, can I automate it? Meaning machines do it for me. If I can't, which by the way, now with AI and automation, like, there's a big bucket here that you can automate a lot of things. Even making videos you can make with AI now, right? And then if you can't, can you delegate it? And then often people say, well, I can't delegate things because I don't have any employees, or I'm not at that point yet. But you can hire, a part-time VA for like $5 an hour or something, who can actually do a lot of this busy work for you. So you've delegated it. And then only if you can't eliminate, automate, or delegate do you then actually focus on this thing yourself. And again, ideally not something that you have to do over and over again. So it's like, make money all the time, urgency and scarcity, and then think about how can you make yourself obsolete.
I agree. And then once you have that, the feeling to go on vacation and actually not all of a sudden make zero money, but actually you still make money, and reducing from 60, 80 hours a week to 15, 20 hours a week, and working on the things that you want to work on, the new things that you want to unlock and enable, is going to be beautiful. So with that, let us know what you think in the comments below, and see you soon.